Okay, Shalom Aleichem. I'll just repeat what I just said. We need to get rid of all distractions because we're gonna have to work hard because this is complex. It's so complex that we need a moshel for a moshel to understand the idea. Okay, but it's very doable and the rewards are great. So we should just let's be mishazek and so we're making a siyum today on the first on gun prakim of Tanya, the first 53 prakim, which is really the safer. You could include the Shayichid V'Emunah as well, but the real information that we really want Ikka is what we're being Messiah today. And the plan is after Pesach to start again, same time, same place, inside the text. So this was called Tanya Inside Out. And now we're going to have after Pesach Tanya Outside In. And we're going to try and plug it all back. And again, like what I've said over and over, is Tanya is a personal project. No one can give you Tanya. No one. You have to make a conscious decision that you're going to invest yourself heavily into the Sefer. And all I can tell you is that it is well worth the investment. Well worth the investment. That's all I can say. Okay, chapters 51, 52, 53. What's the Shekhinah? And what does it mean, Hashras Shekhinah? So people say Shekhinah is the divine presence, the indwelling divine presence, yeah? Which I only know what that means. But we've got a beautiful analogy. The Rebbe is going to give the analogy of the relationship of the soul to the body. I'm going to give an analogy to help understand his analogy. Because in some ways, his analogy is more difficult than understanding the nimshal. His moshel is in some ways more difficult than the nimshal. So this is the moshel, okay? The sun. Where does the sun get its power from? Where's the energy of the sun come? Where does the energy of the sun come from? Don't say God. What?
Core?
Sorry?
From the core, from its core.
So what's going on in the core of the sun is there's basically nuclear fusion, which is, the way I understand it, is it's not really hydrogen atoms, it's the nuclei of hydrogen atoms, which is basically just protons getting condensed very powerfully together, forming helium, and the fall off is basically the psolus. How'd you say that?
Thread?
Sorry?
Psolus, isn't that a thread?
No, that's psila. Psolus, like the byproduct. The byproduct of this fusion of the hydrogen, let's just call them hydrogen atoms, they're not, but the hydrogen being smushed very tightly into becoming helium, is called nuclear fusion. And that's basically the power of the sun is coming from the fall off, Shamyo, is coming from the fallout of that product. Okay? Now the sun energizes the entire world. All life basically comes from the sun, meaning the sun gives life energy to the greenery, to the plants, etc., to the vegetation, and the animals, including us, eat the vegetation and each other, etc. And so therefore all energy is basically coming from the sun. Now, the hydrogen atoms exist all over the universe, everywhere. Okay, hydrogen is the most common element in the entire universe. Okay, it somehow manifests in the most profound way by the sun. Okay, and it causes an energy, we call it white light. That white light, the sun is white light, that white light then is now accessible to all of creation. Now, the different parts of the sun does all different kinds of stuff. So, for example, the sun gives causes what's it called, photosynthesis in the greenery, yeah, which basically means it metabolizes the chlorophyll, whatever it is, metabolizes the energy of the sun into sugars and carbohydrates, etc. Okay, the sun also melts ice. Okay, that's a different koyach within the sun, the ability to melt ice. It makes your skin go brown. Okay, it makes things go hard. It can set fire to stuff. The sun's got lots of different koiches, and they're all contained within that white light. But white light is indivisible. Is a really important point, because I've heard some big Talmidei Chachamim get this idea wrong. Okay, so I want to get this really clear because it's very important. Okay, so white light is a composite, as we know, of all the different colors of light. And it's the different colors of light that do different things. For example, who knows what color light flat plants eat? What color light is the favorite lunch of plants? Plants are green, which means they repel the green light within the sun, in the white light, and that means they're makabel, be'ikah, the blue and the red light. So flowers and plants like to eat blue and red light, okay? Our skin, it produces when the sun hits our skin, which is a kind of ochre color, that produces vitamin D, which is good for the bones and all kinds of stuff in our skin. Yeah, so our skin like probably brings in cyan cyan and yellow, cyan and magenta, like a different kind, whatever it is. But the point is that the sun, although the white light of the sun is one, it's completely unified. It's made up of it. It's got individual, you can't really talk about it, it's difficult to say it. It's a single unity, but within that unity, there's green and there's yellow and there's red and there's all the colors of the spectrum. They all come together and it becomes an indivisible single white light. But you have to know that within that white light is all the colors of the rainbow. Okay? And it's that light that is able to enter into the flowers and the plants, etc., and into the human skin and into the water, etc., and it does all the different things. So we've got hydrogen all over the universe, but that hydrogen, something happens at the place of the sun, and that hydrogen, so to speak, becomes the sun. And that sun is a yichud. It's a white light, which is a yichud, but it's composed of all the colors of light, and therefore it's able to energize everything in the world. Everyone's clearish on. We're gonna give a few more mashalim. Clear-ish. Clear-ish. We don't need to be completely clear, just clear-ish, because it will come clearer. Okay. So now that corresponds, and that moshel was a moshel for this moshel. That corresponds to the relationship of the soul to the body. Now, the soul fills the body is alive with the generic energy. There's a life force in the entire body. The whole body is alive with the energy of the soul. But the body has different functions. We have eyes that see, we have ears that hear, we have a mouth that speaks, we have legs that walk, etc. Those koiches come from the soul. And this is the mistake that I've heard people make, and it's a mistake. I mean, well, unless I'm making a mistake, but from the Messiah that I've received, the way that people learn this is a mistake. I'll give you the mistake. This is what people say. That the neshama is energy. When that energy goes into the eye, it becomes the ability to see. When that same energy goes into the mouth, it becomes the ability to talk. When that same energy goes into legs, it becomes the ability to walk. And what's the moshel for that? Perfect moshel is electricity. So you've got electricity. You could plug in your toaster. You could plug in your air conditioner. You could plug in your hairdryer. You could plug in your computer. It's the same electricity that is being converted through the kli that it's going into something else. So when you plug that same electricity into the toaster, it becomes heat. That same electricity plugged into the air conditioner becomes cold air. That same electricity plugged into the light becomes light. Everyone's with me? So it's the same generic energy, and it's the kli that converts that energy into a specific function. Everyone's clear? That's not how the soul works. The soul sees, the soul hears, the soul speaks, the soul walks. The eyes don't see, the ears don't hear, the mouth doesn't speak, the feet don't walk. It's the soul that does all those things. And it's that individual talent or koyach of the soul that is revealed in the eye. It's the soul's ability to see that is revealed in the eye. It's the soul's ability to walk that is revealed in the legs. It's not that the generic energy goes into the eye and becomes the ability to see. Just like in our moshel with the sunlight. The sunlight is comprised of all these different colors. And it's those set, although in the sun they are all one, they're you can't say it, it's really difficult to say it. In the sun, they're all one, but in the sun there is green light and magenta and yellow and blue and etc. All the colors are merged within that white light. They complete the white light. They make the white light. So it's not like the white light goes into the flowers, goes into the plants and makes sugar. It's the blue and the red light that is of the white light that creates the sugar in the plants. You hear the idea? Yitzi, you clear? More clear. Good. So that was the second moshel. Okay, so the first moshel is, we said, the sunlight and how it, so to speak, reacts with all of creation. Then that's a moshel for understanding how the soul relates to the body. That the soul is an individual, an indivisible yichud. The essence of the soul is a yichud. All essence is one. So the soul is in the head as much as it is in the feet. But now what happens, just like the hydrogen is everywhere in the universe, but at one place in the universe, the hydrogen becomes the sun. It manifests as the sun. So your whole soul that fills your entire body, at one place in your goof, becomes, so to speak, the sun. What's that place in the goof called? Where is it? Where would the moshel, if the sun is to hydrogen, the what is to the soul, to the essence of the soul?
The brain?
Yes, excellent. Shkoyach. The brain is where, so to speak, the essence, the unified essence of the soul that is in the fingernails as much as it is in the eyes and as much as it is in the heart and the brain, it becomes manifest in the brain. Just like the hydrogen atoms that exist all over the universe become, so to speak, manifest in the sun. From the sun, that energy is able now to go out and energize and give life to the whole world. From the brain, that energy now is available to now go into the different limbs of the body and to give the hands the ability to touch, and give the eyes the ability to see, etc. But in the brain, they're a yichud. Just like the white light is a yichud in the sun, but within that white light is all the different colors. So too within the brain, the soul is a yichud, but it has all the different talents and abilities and etc. Okay? So now what happens? From the brain, all of those that yichud spreads out now, like we just said, into all the different limbs of the body. That's what the Shekhinah is. The Shekhinah is the sun, the Shekhinah is the brain, or the energy in the brain, the energy in the sun. The concept of the Shekhinah is it's almost like a relative term. Basically, the Shekhinah is referring to the lowest level of the level above that can infuse itself into the level below. I know that was very vague because it depends on what level you're talking about. But when you've got a level above, okay, the lowest level of that level, let's use the Kabbalistic terms, okay? We've got the spheres. Everyone's familiar with the spheres, yeah? We've got Chochmah, Bina, Das, or Kesser, Chochmah, Bina, whatever. And then you've got Chesed, Gvur, Tefes, Netzach, Yisoid, and Malchus, okay? We're really going to just be talking about Chochmah and Malchus, or Kesser and Malchus, okay? We're going to be using these terms, but don't get worried. They don't need to be scared of these terms, okay? Malchus is the composite of everything that was above it. Malchus is like the sea that all the streams of all the spheres above flow into. So Malchus is composed of all of the above. That sounds a little bit like the sun in our moshel, no? Composed of all the colors in a yichud. Sounds a little bit like the brain in our moshel. It's all the koichas of the soul, but in a yichud. Now that level is now available to enter into the level below and to now spread out into the different functions of the level below. People with me? So the Shekhinah, that when people talk about the Shekhinah Kadosha, they're usually referring to what we call Malchus of Atzilus. Malchus de Atzilus. We have the four Madregas, the four levels, the four worlds, beginning with Atzilus, which is the Kushya world. Then we have Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Okay, we're going down in different levels of concealment. The lowest level of the highest world, which is Atzilus, is called the Shekhinah. Why? Because that is the totality of that level, the higher level of Atzilus, that now is compatible with the level below, which is the world of Bria. We're clear. This is it's quite simple, but are we clear on this? I'll say again. Malchus of Atzilus is the lowest level of Atzilus, yeah? Within Malchus of Atzilus, it collects all of the levels above it, the 9 powers before it, and they become a unity in the Malchus of Atzilus, just like the sun. Now, Malchus of Atzilus enters in to the Chochmah, let's say the Chochmah, the highest level of Bria. And there it now differentiates again and can become the entire world of Bria. So it now energizes Chochmah and Bina and Das and Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Yisoid. And then Malchus of Bria now can be called the Shechina. Because the Malchus of Bria is makabel all of the 9 koiches above it, just like in, or not like in similar way to the Malchus of Atzilus. And now the Malchus of Bria can become enclosed in the Chochma, or really the Moichin, the Chochma of Yetzirah, the level below it. And the whole process begins again. Now that energy energizes the Chochma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gevur, Tefes, Netzach, Yesod of Yetzirah. That all becomes Nichlal again in the Malchus of Yetzirah. And the Malchus of Yetzirah now becomes available and compatible with the Chochma of Asiya, the lower level. And the whole thing begins again. And that Malchus now, the energy of the Malchus of Yetzirah, now energizes the Chochma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvur, Tves, Netzach, Yesod, and lands in Malchus, the lowest level of Asiya. So within the Malchus of Asiya, you've got all of the levels enclosed like an onion. More and more and more to the very, very core of it would be the Ein Sof Mamash, would be Hashem himself Mamash. Okay? So now, we're clear. We've basically painted the picture of how it worked. This is the Shechina. To give a nice quick moshel, you can say like this, yeah? You learn something really cool and deep. You learn something very deep. And you want to give it over to your child. Now that becomes revealed in your Malchus, yeah? You learn it, you comprehend it through your Chochma, Bina, and Das, and you process it through your Midas, through the Vav, through the Midas, and then it becomes manifest in Malchus. You know what part of the body is Malchus?
Right.
Yitzi, what do you think?
Isn't it the aver? The tip of the aver?
Yeah, so let's not
The
talk
mouth.
the mouth. Why?
That's where you convey to another outside of yourself.
Exactly.
Just like the tip, right?
You express through your exactly. It's the same minion with the Ava, with the Tara of the Ava, but with the mouth, it's also the place where, although it's high up, it's the place where everything comes out, and from your mouth you enter into the moichin of your child. What you understood with all your intelligence and your emotions, etc., it comes out of your mouth, it manifests out of your mouth, and it goes into the moichin of your child. And then it filters through his whole system, and then he tells it over to his friend in an even more simple way. That's exactly how it works. You with me? That's why the mouth is called Malchus. The Devar Hashem is called Malchus. It's the place where the higher level is compatible with the lower level. When you learn Kabbalah, if you learn Oitzvos Chaim, you'll see this gets very complicated. We're just touching it, mamash. It gets insanely complicated. But this is the idea. No matter how complicated it gets, the idea is that the Malchus of the level above is the entry point, is the place where the level above becomes compatible with the level below. And it enters into the Chabad, into the moichin of the level below. Just like when you get that idea clear, you tell your kid the idea, who's the level below you, it goes into his moichin. his brain processes it according to his level, and then it goes down through into his midas, etc. And then hopefully he'll go and tell his friend the idea, and onward and onward. So that's called the Shechina. That is, the Shechina is the Rebbeinu Shloilem, so to speak, manifesting himself, and that's called Devar Hashem. And that becomes available now to the worlds below. Now, a very important point is that you can't actually look at the sun. If you look at the sun, you'll burn your eyes. The Shechina itself, although it's compatible with the world below, is just compatible with the world below. It needs a filter. This is Modic. What's the filter that allows the Shechina of the world above to enter into the world below it? On every level, remember we've explained this, it's all relative, yeah? That it goes on, yeah? So let's just talk about from Atzilus into Bria. So the Malchus of Atzilus going into the Chabad, Chochmah Bina Das, the Moichin of Bria, I've kind of said it by that. The filter that allows the lower level to be able to process the Shechina is called the Torah. The Torah of that world, and the Torah manifests as all in different worlds as different things. We'll explain that in a minute. The Torah Kedosha acts as a filter that allows the light of the Shechina from the level above it to filter into the level below it. It's the world below. So it works out really beautifully when we talk. Yeah, Michael, yeah?
Do the Asar Mamros, do the 10 utterances that Hashem said come into play in this conversation?
Well, I mean, for sure, they're completely connected, but we're not going to talk about them. We'll talk about the Aseres Adibros. The Aseres Mamros and the Aseres Adibros are very connected, but we're not going to talk about them. But we will talk about the Aseres Adibros. Like we said, the soul is an indivisible oneness, yeah, that manifests in the brain, okay? Still as an indivisible oneness. You remember how many limbs and sinews we have in the body?
248.
What does that correspond to? The Ramach mitzvahs are saying, the Shas mitzvahs lo say 248 positive mitzvahs and the 365 negative mitzvahs. It's exactly the same. It's through the mitzvahs, it's through the Tayag mitzvahs that the light of the world above, the light of the Ein Sof Mamash, is able to filter into the world below. The Torah is the filter that allows the Rebbeinu Shalom to enter into his world. That's amazing to know that. That is truly amazing to know that. That's what the Torah is. The Torah is Ratzono v'Chochmosoi. It's his Ratzon and his will. It's his Ratzon and his Chochmah. And it's his Ratzon and his Chochmah that allows him to enter into his world without obliterating it. So when we're learning Torah, we are acting, so to speak, as the filter. I don't know exactly how you would phrase that, but we're allowing, so to speak, the Rebbeinu Shalom in his infinite humility, we're giving him access into his world. Without the Torah, it would obliterate, the level above would obliterate the level below, even though it's semi-compatible. but it's only semi-compatible. It needs to be filtered through the Torah Kedosha so that that energy can filter into this world and be machaya this world. And then again, that was from Atzilus to Bria. So it becomes enclosed in the moichin of Bria, yeah, the Chabad of Bria. It gets processed through the Midas and becomes again the Malchus of Bria. Now the Malchus of Bria would obliterate the Olam Yetzirah. So it goes into the moichin of Yetzirah, which is again the Chabad, which is the Torah of Yetzirah, and it filters through the whole system again, and it becomes the Malchus of Yetzirah, which would again obliterate the Olam HaAsiyah. But it goes into the Chabad, the moichin of Asiyah, the Torah of Asiyah, and that processes it through, and therefore then you've got the world of Asiyah, and it all works. That's how it works. So the Torah of the worlds, the Torah is called the Chabad. We've got the 10 spheres we've been speaking about. You've got Chochmah, Bina, and Das, and then you've got the Midas. The Chabad of the world is called the Torah. Okay. We've done all the hard work now. We're going to just enjoy the Paris now. We're going to piece it all together. So what's the base of Mikdash? What was the Bias Rishon? The original base of Mikdash. What was it?
Place for the ski rest.
Yeah. But the Bias Rishon was the building that housed the Kodesh Kedoshim. What was in the Kodesh Kedoshim? The Luchos, the 10 Commandments. The Kodesh Kedoshim is called the Moichin. Your mind is called Kodesh Kedoshim. Within the Kodesh Kedoshim of the Beis Hamikdash was the Luchos. That's the Torah. The Luchos, the 10 Commandments, is the entire Torah. It breaks down into and the 10 Commandments are nichlal in the first commandment, which is the oneness, like I said, which is the oneness in the brain, which is the Shechina, which is the light, the sun, which is one, which divides out into all the colors, which the brain divides out into the light, the energy in the brain divides out into the 630. It divides into the 10 koichas of the soul, which further subdivides into the 613 koichas of the soul. So too in the Kodesh Kedoshim, Anoichi, which is the first commandment, subdivides into the 10 commandments, the 10 commandments into the 613 commandments. You've got the exact same thing going on again. You with me? That's the place of the Shechina. That's what it means. The Shechina rests in the Kodesh Kedoshim. Just like your soul fills your entire body, but it becomes manifest in a klal, in a yichud in your brain, so too the Rebbeinu Shalom fills the entire world, but he becomes manifest in a unity in the Kodesh Kedoshim. The exact same moshel. It's exactly the same. So now this is the difference between the Bias Rishon and the Bias Sheni. I know this is this is not easy stuff, but it's definitely it's when you get it clear, it's moedic. Okay, we've got Chochmah and Malchus, yeah, the highest level and the lowest level, yeah. So the Malchus in Bias Rishon, the Malchus of Atzilus became enclosed in the Chochmah of Bria, in the Moichin of Bria, the level below it. Okay, 1 minute. Just want to make sure I get this right. The Shechina Atzilus present in the Malchus, yeah. The Malchus of Atzilus became enclosed in the Malchus in the Chochmah of Bria. From Bria, that same energy filtered down and became enclosed in the Malchus of Bria. Now, what would you think next? The Malchus of Bria would become enclosed in
The Chachma of the lower world, of the lower level.
and it didn't. It didn't. It skipped. This is why there were Nissim in the Bias Rishon and not in the Bias Sheni. In the Bias Rishon, that energy became enclosed in the Malchus of Bria. It skipped Olam Yetzira and Olam Ha'asiyah and became manifest in the lower level of in this phenomenological world, in this physical world. And that's why there were Nissim. It was like, like the elevators in Manhattan that skip the floors, but going downwards. It skipped the floors. So that was miraculous. In the Bias Sheni, it went down through all the worlds. So there were no Nissim. And what was the nace? It's funny because it sounds like such a funny little thing. Anyone remembers what the two Nissim of the Luchos were? What was the nace of the Luchos?
You could read it backward. You could read it forward and backward.
Yeah, number one. Yeah, and what else?
The letters floated.
Yes, they sound like such funny little, like cutesy little, like Nissim. Like it just had like with a samach and an end of mem. It had because they're closed. So there was a tube of floating stone in the middle. It like sounds cute, and you could read it from both sides like an optical illusion. What was that? That was the disintegration of the law of gravity and the laws of cause and effect. The two most powerful natural laws in those two cutesy little miracles that was a symbol for the breaking of the all of nature, mamash, in those cutesy little miracles, the law of gravity and the law of cause and effect. So really the Luchos Rishonos were mamash. It wasn't with the Luchos Rishonos, but in the Beis Hamikdash, they were absolutely miraculous. They were absolutely miraculous. In the second Beis Hamikdash, they were natural. The Shechina came down through all the levels. You know what Teva's called? Teva is when the Shechina becomes manifest through a seer. That we call Teva. The laws of Teva are the Shechina being manifest, or Hashem being manifest through the lowest of all the worlds. That's called nature. The laws of nature. Okay? So now there was one thing I said that wasn't absolutely accurate, is that I'm going to say this, and now I think everyone's holding, yeah? So the Hashem himself, Ein Sof, becomes enclosed in Chochmah Da'atzilus, yeah? Which becomes manifest in Malchus. Can people just keep nodding if they're understanding what I'm saying? Becomes manifest in the Malchus of Atzilus. The Malchus of Atzilus enters into the Chochmah of Bria, which becomes manifest in the Malchus of Bria. The Malchus of Bria enters into the Chochmah of Yetzirah, the level below that, and becomes manifest in the Malchus of Yetzirah. The Malchus of Yetzirah enters into the Chochmah of Asiyah. Yeah? And that's where it stopped in the Bias Sheni. The Chochmah, the Chochmah of Asiyah did not become manifest in the Malchus of Asiyah. It just skipped that level and became manifest in the Beis Hamikdash. So what happened once the base of Mikdash got destroyed? Well, and this is where we're getting to. Where we're holding right now is that final level. Hashem has now entered into the final level, the Malchus of Asiya. And that's why the mitzvahs are all physical actions. Even like the ones with speech, you still have to say the words. It's called a kimus for sign, the lips move. So with the destruction of the Bayis Sheni, Hashem now, the only place Hashem enters into is called the Daled Amos of Halacha. That's the lowest level. So it's all Bahashgacha. It's all Bahashgacha. Why? Because that's called the Dir B'Tachtonim. That is what Hashem wanted. Hashem wanted to come into the lowest level. So he went through this whole thing with Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni and Churban Bayis Sheni, and then 2,000 years of Galus. And now he's entering into the Daled Amos of Halacha. That's when we do the physical mitzvahs. And that is the inyan of turning the darkness into light. Now, the analogy that the Rebbe gives of the candle, he gave the analogy of the candle in chapter 35, if you remember, and he finishes the Sefer by going back to the same analogy. In the analogy, we've got the flame, we've got the wick, and we've got the oil. The flame is the Shechina. The wick is the Nefesh Bahamis, the animating energy of the mitzvah. Mitzvahs need to be performed by the Jewish Nefesh Bahamis. Like if a non-Jew eats matzah on Pesach, nothing happened. It needs the energy of the Jew to eat the matzah on Pesach. Then the mitzvah takes place. 1 minute, I just lost myself. Yeah, so the fire is the Shechina, the wick is the goof, is the Nefesh Bahamis, and the oil, if you remember, is the Maisim Tovim, is the mitzvahs. Now, obviously, a candle, when a candle burns, everyone pay attention now, because this is the finale, yeah? When the candle burns, we know the oil is burning. Yeah? But you know that the wick is also burning, and that a wick, there's an actual equation I looked up, you can look it up. A wick will last for a certain amount of oil, it's like gallons of oil. But the wick is being consumed extremely, extremely slowly, which means a wick does not last forever. If you have like a big candle, like in some of the shuls, they have these big, these like massive candles where they just pour in oil and there's a little wick floating. Eventually, after, 4 or 5, big pitchers of oil, after a good few weeks of burning, they need to change the wick. The wick is actually consumed. And that's our avoider. The wick is our Nefesh Bahamis. And it's the gradual, very, very gradual conversion of our Nefesh Bahamis through doing the mitzvahs that is how Hashem sticks to this world. So we thought, this is the kunz, we thought the Yetzer Hara that we have, is our biggest impediment to Kedusha. It's the exact opposite thing. The Nefesh Bahamis, our Yetzer Hara, is what allows Hashem to enter into his world. Doing the physical mitzvahs, using the Nefesh Bahamis, that's, in the analogy, that's the wick. That is the actual maisim, the actual mitzvahs of the oil that's burning, but without the wick, there's nothing doing. So it's the drafting of our human element, the human element of the Jew, the nefesh habahamis of the Jew. It's having that involved in the physical mitzvahs that allows Hashem to enter into his world. That's the whole story. So it comes out, it's an entire about turn. We've been talking about Kavanah for the past 10 chapters, yeah? And the Rebbe comes back and says, Kavanah is very important, but Kavanah only aids the mitzvah. The actual Maisa mitzvah is the Ikka. And this is the equalizing factor amongst all Jews. I can put a mezuzah on my doorpost in the same way that Moshe Rabbeinu puts a mezuzah on his doorpost. He might have incomparably higher kavanahs, but the actual Maisa mitzvah, which is what it's all about, is Shava L'Kol Nefesh. And that's the final message of the Tanya. The final message of the Tanya is that by schwitzing for Hashem, by putting your goof into the mitzvah, whether you have an experience, whether you don't have an experience, that is a very side point. You might need it to keep you energized and to keep you interested and to keep you lively, etc. Yeah, but the actual magic is taking place through the Maisa mitzvah. That's the ultimate message of Tanya. The ultimate message of Tanya. It says that Hashem is the Eish Ochlahi. Hashem is the Eish Ochla, a consuming fire. And we mentioned, if you remember, that by the burning bush, the bush wasn't consumed. Remember? Hashem is a consuming fire, but when he revealed himself to Moshe, he wasn't even burning the bush up, let alone burning the world up. He wasn't even the bush wasn't even being consumed. It was only with the giving of the Torah that Hashem was able to enter into his world, and the chomer of this world could be transformed into kedusha. Before the Torah, Hashem wasn't even burning up a little bush. By Matan Torah, the entire Har was being burned up. Har Sinai, which Sinai, and Sneh is the same shoresh, samach and nun. I'm not going to get into that right now. But by Sinai, Har Sinai, the whole world was burned up. By the bush, even a little bush wasn't even consumed. And we'll finish off by mentioning Reb Nachman that what's said on the front of a lot of the breast of the Svarim. There's a little like one of Reb Nachman's famous sayings that's on a lot of the breast of the Svarim. Eish Sheli Toiked Ad Bias Mashiach. You know what I'm talking about? When you go into the Happy Minion next, just grab one of the breast of the Svarim, and you'll see on the front of nearly all of them, it says Eish Sheli Tukad Ad Bias Mashiach. And they translate that as my fire. Reb Nachman was saying, my fire will burn until the coming of Mashiach. But you could read it like this. Eish Sheli, the fire of Sheli, the fire of my ego, the fire of my yesh. That is, but tukad is the word that you use when a korban burns. It's not just the idea of burning something, that's sorif. But korban, this by the way is the Indian of biur chometz. I may mention that quickly at the end. But the Eish Sheli, the fire of Sheli, of my ego, is tukad, is being burned on the Mizbeach. It's being converted. That's what allows Hashem to come into the world. It's the ego. It's the ego that Hashem is compatible with. That's the craziest thing. Why? Because the ego thinks it's God. The ego is Elohim Acherim. He has the same name as God. Hashem is also Elohim. So it's the burning of the ego. The ego and Hashem are compatible because the ego thinks it's God. It's got godly qualities, much more than the Malachim. The Malachim know they're dependent on God. The ego says, Ani v'afsi oid, I am God. So it's the ego that when we give the ego to Hashem, that he's compatible. That's how he comes into his world. So that's Aish Sheli, that the fire of the ego burns like a sacrifice ad bias Mashiach, until Mashiach comes. Once Mashiach comes and the ego is obliterated and we see reality clearly, that's just ad bias Mashiach. Only ad bias Mashiach. And that's bir chometz. When you're burning your chometz, remember, bir chometz is mamash the final avodah of the year, just before Pesach. Pesach is the beginning of the new year. The final thing we do is bir chometz. Remember, the avodah of the yid is not matzah. The avodah of the yid is chometz. Just 1 week a year, we have to reorient ourselves, so we eat matzah. But really, the avodah of the yid is in chometz. That's chometz. That's the chomer of this world. That's the gashmius of this world that says I am and ani v'afsi oid. That's the part. So we've said this before. We'll just finish on this, and that's what Rav Manis said, that this crazy egotism exists in our generation. Everyone thinks they're God. Yeah. Go back a couple of 100 years, no one except for like the poets and the king thought they were God. Everybody knew they were not God very deeply. They were just a pawn in the game. But now we all think we're God. And Rav Manis said that when Hashem finally opens the clouds and says, Ani Hashem, everyone's going to turn around and go, I thought I was God. Now I understand. That's the compatibility of this world with the Born Shalom. And that sets Yiddishkeit apart. What we've just discussed here sets Yiddishkeit apart from every other spiritual philosophy that I've ever come across. This is the Nakuda and this is why we said this, mentioning that I was just in India. This is why in India they burn the goof. India is a very, it is a monotheistic religion. Whatever, I'm not going to get into that now. But they burn the goof. When someone dies, they cremate the goof. For us, that's a tremendous chilul Hashem. We bury the goof. Why? Because the goof is mamash kodesh. The goof is kodesh. That's how Hashem will come into it, and that's the secret of Tchiyas Amesim, is showing how Hashem and Gashmius is actually more compatible than Hashem and Ruchnius. And that's the Chiddush of Yiddishkeit. If we just open this up, I give everyone a bracha that we should put energy into trying to get this clear, very, very clear. It's worth hours and hours of study. It really is. This is not just a vort. We're not just giving over a little vort here, as you know, but this is worth hours of study. So anyway, we'll get back to it. B'ezrat Hashem. And let me just finish. We just finished the Sefer. That is a big thing. I'll tell you, for me, this basically was me making a siyum be'ian on Tanya. So, Nishlam Chelek Rishon, Be'ezus Hashem, Yizbach V'Yis'aleh. We should be zocher to return to this holy, holy Sefer, which we'll do B'ezrat Hashem straight after Pesach. And shkoyach for participation. Hazak v'yamat.
Amen. Mazel tov. Beautiful. Thank you.
Shkoyach.
Dr. Buck, thank you.
Shukar.
My pleasure.